The Anatomy of Life podcast is where we delve into the elements that shape our existence. This is your audio guide on all the building blocks of life, relationships, your purpose, your mind and your body, and everything in between. Because at the core of it all is health, the foundation that shapes how we live, how we grow, and how we thrive. Art, music, photography, and dance are all forms of creative expression. I'm your host, Lexi, and in this episode, I sit down with renowned artist Noor Abu Issa to continue our exploration of the transformative power of creativity in promoting social wellness and emotional well-being. We'll discuss Noor's artistic journey, her creative process, and how art can foster play, community, and connection. I'll also touch on how to incorporate creativity into your daily life, even for those who don't even identify as creative. And we'll look at how art and play can enhance cognitive function, boosting your creativity and strengthening your social connections. Play is not just for children, but is so essential for adults. This was a candid, fun, open and honest conversation. Take a listen and comment on your take of creativity and perhaps how it may resonate with you or how you use it in your overall existence. Now, before going into how there are many forms of creative expression, let's get to know our guest a little better. Noor, welcome to the Anatomy of Life podcast, and thank you for joining me. And I'd love for our listeners to get to know a little bit about you and what inspired you to become an artist.
Hi, Lexi. Thank you so much for having me. I think what inspired me to become an artist is it's a way that I am able to quiet my mind. So for me, the artistic journey and the creative process and being in this field is all about lowering my anxiety and figuring out how to go through life. And it's the creative process for me is holding my hand through life. It's really very connected to my personal journey as well as my professional one. I think art for me is the only thing that is able to do that, but also able to challenge me and get me out of my comfort zone. For me, I was always good at school academically, and I was really good at finding patterns and things. So I was very quick to learn, and I could figure out anything from calculus to even history has patterns, and I could just figure it out, and I would figure out how to learn everything. And then I was confronted with art, and suddenly I wasn't able to find the pattern because there are so many different ways of creating and so many different ways of making art. And it was a real challenge for me. It was the first time where I was stopped in my tracks and I was like,
what is this?
What do I do now?
So you were very artistic as a child?
As a child, I think there was always... My parents were not surprised when I said I wanted to be an artist. I was really nervous. I was like, I think they're expecting me to do something that's more scientific based or math based. But when I said I want to be an artist, they were like, yeah, that makes perfect sense.
Oh, wow.
There was no, where did you get that idea from? For them, it just made perfect sense. But then the academics took precedence, and I'm a recovering perfectionist. So for me,
I feel like we all are at the moment. I am definitely.
So academics took precedence until I got to high school, and I got into this new school, and I took my first real art class in my mind, where the art teacher took us outside, and he was like, "Let's go outside and let's paint and draw from life."
Yeah.
So we all took our easels out and our notebooks and our pencils, and we went outside, and we were outside for 45 minutes. And then class is done, and he was testing us. He was trying to figure out what everyone was capable of doing and looking and drawing from life. And then he comes throughout the class, he goes and checks on everyone. And I saw him glancing at me a couple of times, but he didn't come. He left me till the end. And in the end, he comes up to me and he looks into I had my sketchbook in my lap. Yeah. And he comes up to me and he looks over my shoulder. And I was drawing the building in front of me. But I had started with the tiles on the roof.
Oh.
So I had started with tile by tile, building it as if I was building it in real life, like brick by brick. And he was taken aback. But look how focused my vision was at the time on the tiny little things,
The details.
the details, before I even put the form down. And I think he looked at me and he was like, challenge accepted. I'm gonna,
Yes.
I'm gonna change you. And so he's the one who really pushed me out of my comfort zone. And he made it his mission to do that. He taught me how to like go big brushstrokes, move my arms, not just my
Rigid.
fingertips. Yeah.
Yeah.
Move my arms, get the bigger picture down
Feel
first.
it in your body.
Exactly.
Yes.
And then you start going into the details. And that actually goes into your life.
Yeah. It's so true that you say that, because in my art class, I had, shout out to Mr. van der Linde. He was my art teacher. He was very artsy. And I'm sure your art teacher was the same. They're very boisterous and a little loud, and there's color, and they wear color, and they're so full of life. And he did the same thing with the brush strokes, because I was very afraid to move my hand when I was drawing. I remember the one was in our final year, we had to do an art piece that was based on something iconic. And for me, it was the Afghan girl from the National Geographic picture.
Yes.
I wish I could show you this picture. And I painted her. My sister has the painting now. She has that painting. But there was a part of it, because of the way that she was wearing her cloak, I would call it, I couldn't get the strokes right. And the picture fell flat. And it wasn't very 3D. And I'll never forget sitting there and feeling so disheartened by it. And I felt it in my body. Like I felt super sad. And some people would be like, oh, just get over it. But art brings out the parts of you that need to be explored, where you're like, I need to get over like you were saying, bring myself out of comfort zone, try something new, redo that brushstroke. It's like a do-over in life. A lot of the time people say we don't have do-overs. We do have do-overs. So I love that you said that about the brushstrokes and feeling it in your body. And you literally immerse yourself in art.
Yes.
It becomes who you are.
I remember the first time that I felt so totally immersed, and I was having a really challenging time. We were drawing with pastels, colored pastels.
That's difficult.
We were drawing people. So we had a model on a little stage, and we were drawing the person. Yeah. And I think it was maybe the first time that I was drawing someone like that. And for me, it was a new medium as well. So it was also that bit of a challenge. And I was like trying to you can't mix colors.
Yeah.
So you have to use them individually.
Yeah.
So, and that doesn't make sense
difficult.
in my head.
Why can I not
didn't compute.
mix this?
And I remember I actually took a break from drawing, and I went away, and I had to take a deep breath and gather myself and then try again, because it was really tough. And I didn't want to fail. And I went back into the room, and I just put my headphones on, and I was just like, you know what, let's just try.
Get into it.
And let's just see what happens. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then I got so into it that I woke up after my
slumber.
Yeah, I was so in the zone that half an hour passes.
You don't even realize.
I know. I didn't even realize. And I just looked around me suddenly, and I saw that everyone had gotten off their seats and come to see what I was doing. And I was just so in the zone that I didn't even realize that
that's amazing.
People were up.
Yes. And they were interested in what you were doing.
And that's the first time I just got so lost.
Yeah.
I still have it sometimes. It looked exactly like the person that I was. But I had so much fun with all the colors. I think that's when my love of color was uncovered.
I find that art allows us to explore and express our inner world. And it helps us make sense of our experiences, our values, and our beliefs, whether through personal storytelling, which you've just done with us, or cultural expression or experimentation. Creativity actually strengthens our sense of self and purpose. So how has your journey as an artist evolved over time? And how has creativity shaped your sense of identity and self-discovery?
I think it's part of the journey, right? As you were saying.
Because you change over the years.
Yeah, you change, but also for me, the way I change professionally also helps me change personally, and vice versa. They go hand in hand for me. And creativity for me is not a hobby or a job, or it's actually part of
who you are,
my being.
100%.
When I wanted to study art, it wasn't because I thought I could make a career out of it.
You were studying yourself.
I was studying. Yeah, I was like, this is really interesting, and I keep pushing boundaries, and I keep pushing every time I hit a wall, like I get challenged creatively. I loved that I was also able to get over it very quickly, or not quickly, but I loved the idea.
The process, yeah.
I went through the process, and every time I started finding formulas as well, patterns within those processes, that when you start that I started recognizing the feeling of reaching a challenge and then figuring out what I was doing, how to get over it. And then that feeling of relief when
When
you've achieved.
that is exactly what creativity and art does. And the point of the whole podcast, especially sitting with you as a creative today, is to send the message to listeners who are stuck. They've been met with a challenge in their life. And I'm not saying they have to be a painter or they have to be a dancer, but when you're met with the challenge, to find a process is to go within and find what's stuck and work through that. And for me, it's getting creative, because the only way through a challenge is to problem solve. And you have to be creative to problem solve. And this is why creativity is so immensely, it's so important for our development as human beings, our development as men and women, as two opposites, male versus female, as we develop in our personal direction, in our identities. It just helps the humankind from a creative perspective when you let yourself be immersed in your creative expression.
Because then you learn how to feel.
Yes. And that is the basis of humanity for me. Like, we need to learn to emote again, because nobody knows how to show emotion, how to express emotion, how to accept expression of emotion. And that's why a lot of anxiety and depression lives in the world.
Because there's a lot of overthinking.
Yes. But
we're thinking too much.
Yeah, we think too much.
But when you're able to quiet your mind and doing the things that you love,
yes,
whether that be writing or baking,
yes,
or drawing or painting, reading,
yeah,
then you have that space, you give your mind that space to actually
overcome challenges,
to stop working.
Yeah.
And then you start feeling your body.
Yeah, it's so true. By doing that, and hopefully the listeners have listened to many of the episodes by now, knowing that I'm a health coach, and this is why I'm sitting with an artist, is because when you go, like you were saying, you quiet your mind, you actually go into the fibers of your body. You release the tension in your gut. You release the tension in your shoulders. And that in turn helps you to have a healthy gut so that you can absorb whatever you eat. And everything is connected. And that's why I've called it the anatomy of life. It's everything that makes up our everyday life. And creativity, when we teach it as health coaching, is its own slice. It's its own, it's like money. So you got money, you've got relationships. Creativity is its own slice, because it's as important as making money, if not more important.
That is super interesting.
Yeah.
And it's not what's your hobby.
No. And it's not what's your hobby. Me too. And people are like, oh, this is a hobby. I'm like, no, this is who you are. Creativity is who you are. It's your identity. I feel like painting is a form of mindfulness, as you've just said now. And in describing it that way, it lends itself to helping reduce stress and anxiety and even symptoms of depression, which we've just touched on. The process of creating allows for emotional release and self-expression. And that is obviously providing a therapeutic outlet for processing emotions. In what ways do you believe creativity contributes to your emotional and mental well-being? I think you spoke about it just as we started.
I think being so intertwined into my life, creativity is not, it's not a separate thing to me. And I think I discovered this shortly after I finished my studies. And I studied fine art.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, I'm done. I did what I wanted to do. It had its ups and downs as well. And it was very challenging actually for me. And it was really challenging doing a fine art degree when all my friends were in engineering and business and finance. And they had clear
path.
Yeah.
What society says is a clear path.
And for me, it was a little scary for the 4 years that I studied it. And I'm like, but what am I going to do after? So I graduated and I'm like, okay, no one's an artist. That's not a real job.
Yeah.
So I went and I got a real job and I started working, and I was so proud of myself and that I found a job in my field, and I was working and I had a great team and I was learning so much, but there was just something in me that wasn't paid. There was something in me that was just very on edge all the time. And then actually my husband started saying, you look like you need to do a little painting. How about you go into your studio? And I'm like, no, but I don't need to do it. I'm not after, I don't have any projects in mind. I don't have a plan. I said, just try. And I would go into my studio for an hour, 2 hours. I would come out a different person. And I'm like, oh my God, how did you know that I needed that?
Yeah. That's
Exercise.
Yeah.
For some people, they have to go for a walk.
For you, you have to paint.
I have to paint. I have to create. I have to think of something creative.
And what does that do for you mentally? So does it take you to a specific type of mindset? Are you calm? Is your mind completely blank? What's happening in Noor's mind when you're in that creative painting process?
I'm in the zone. And I think you can get into the zone in different ways, through
Yes.
exercise, through meditation, through painting,
Mind
drawing. But I just,
quietens,
a quiet mind, I connect to myself. I can hear my thoughts.
There's no outside noise.
I even start enjoying the outside noise more.
Yeah. And creativity brings you back to yourself. And that's the point of creating, because once you back to yourself, it's as simple as I get so many clients come across and they say, I don't know, I eat so many times a day. I should be eating at this time I'm like, no. Does the body say you should eat at that time? No, but I should. I'm like, but maybe the body doesn't want to eat. So you don't know your hunger cues anymore. You've lost the innate connection to yourself. Your body will tell you when you're tired. Your body will tell you when you're hungry. Your body will tell you when you have to run from the bear that's outside. The body is an intelligent vessel, and creativity brings you in connection with that vessel. Have you found a way that painting or being creative, the way that you are in your process, has it healed you in certain circumstances where you felt distressed?
It's a constant healer in my life. It's a constant way that I'm able to process my emotions. But there was a time when I was a teenager and I was overwhelmed with life and I had so much, you have so much on your plate. And I got to a point where even reading and writing was difficult for my brain. It was hard for me to...
Felt like a chore?
It felt really hard. So I would have to do it in like very small chunks. And I had just started university. So obviously that wasn't ideal for me at the time. Yeah. Luckily I was studying art.
Yeah, thank God.
But actually, the first reading a book would have been very daunting for me, even though I had been reading since I was a child and I loved reading. So then I picked up, actually, I remember picking up a comic. And that was the first book I read that got me
back into the reading.
So that's tricking my brain into slowly taking in more and more chunks of information until I was able to finish the whole book. And it was life-changing.
That is good.
And also another way for me, the creative process helps you trust yourself. Give yourself that trust that you can overcome challenges. And if you can show your mind that you're able to do that slowly but surely, then your mind is able to trust you more and more.
Trusting yourself, that's a huge thing for creativity. I'm going to go off the beaten track a bit here because I feel like there's something we need to talk about. Your actual artwork that you've done over the years. Can you share with us all the different installations you've had and the meanings behind them?
Let me start with the very beginning, the essence of it. So I was classically trained when I was in high school, and that means painting from life. So painting portraits and painting plein air in nature, painting still lifes, sculpting, printmaking. But all of it was etching. We've tried etching.
Yeah.
We had a nice, well-rounded art program, and we painted. We would copy paintings. That's how like the masters used to teach. And so it was a very classical way of teaching. And I loved mixing color and like being out in nature and
experimenting.
Yeah, and like finding, because nothing is ever so I would like love like finding little surprises of color, of like when you look into a green bush, you don't know that actually there's a lot of red hidden inside within the branches.
True.
You don't know that like when the light reflects, it's actually blue. And it's like different shades of these. And I just loved finding
discovering
all these little, I love color.
Yeah.
And then I moved on to, I graduated from high school and I needed to find my voice and who am I and what am I trying to say?
Yeah.
When I was studying abroad, so I was studying in the UK and the US, and it was really hard for me to find my grounding as an Arab woman and figure out who I am and what I'm trying to say in an environment that sees me as really foreign. I didn't see myself
As
being
foreign,
foreign there.
yeah. But they
I
saw
spoke
you.
the language. I know
Yeah.
how they think. We've been trained to think
Yeah.
like the West for
Yeah.
so for me it was I
Normal.
felt like I was normal there.
Yeah, but you are.
there was always that look that people couldn't understand me, and I was very aware of that. And then by chance we had this family holiday to Turkey in the summer between my first year of university and my second. And we went to Istanbul and we did all the touristy things.
Yeah.
We went to all the mosques and
Did
all the things. And I
Yeah.
just remember every single mosque I went into, even though they're like these huge tourist attractions and there
Yeah.
are so many people there. And that's not how you're meant to enter a mosque. You're meant to enter it more peacefully. But even with all the people there and all the crowds and the mosques being mosques and then turn into churches and then back into mosques with all their history, when you walk in, there's something about the Islamic architecture that just transports you. It grounds you.
Yeah.
It makes you feel so peaceful.
Peaceful.
Gives you that feeling of serenity.
Like one.
Yes, it is so powerful. So I
So
went
true.
back to London that summer and I just started devouring all the information I can about Islamic architecture and Islamic geometry. And that's how I found
Your identity,
my
so to
visual
speak.
language.
Yes.
Yeah.
Your
And this is
style,
how,
so to speak.
and I found this is how I can speak to people, because this is
Oh.
something for me in my recovering perfectionist brain.
Yeah.
The straight lines
Yes.
and the patterns and the clean lines and the geometry
And the color.
was so satisfying to me. And then I
Yes.
can merge that with
Yeah.
my love and obsession
With
color. And I can play with my colors within that framework without having to
conform. Yeah.
and without having to look for it somewhere in nature to copy. No, I can actually sit with myself and
Yeah.
the abstract arts.
Part of you, and I said this before we started recording, your art is distinct. Your art is, when I walk into a room and I see Noor Abu Issa on the wall, I know it's you. You're very much, your art speaks. It speaks loudly, it speaks proudly, it speaks resilience, it speaks playfulness, it speaks life. And when I've seen your art, and that's the reason why I've curated the list of people that I interview, you speak so loudly, but in such a peaceful way. And knowing you on a personal level as well, hearing how you speak and you understand how art can connect to your health. Just before we got started, Noor gave me or linked me a book that says Your Brain on Art, how the art transforms us. And it just changes how you think about art. People think, oh, art, you're going to have a little easel, you're going to have some water paint, you're going to paint. It's deeper. It has much more meaning to our lives as human beings and our existence coexisting side by side. And it just brings out the best in us. We've been talking about challenges. You were talking about how the art brings you out of your challenge. And there was a study that was conducted by, I think that, I'm not sure if it's male and female, but it's C.M. Stuckey and J.L. Noble. And it was published in the American Journal for Public Health. And it was called The Connection Between Art and Mental Well-Being. Can you believe it? And the study actually found that by engaging in creative activities like painting, writing, dancing, acting, whatever the creative art is, you then enhance your emotional well-being. Did you go through depression at all?
Yes.
Or some sort of like
certain points in my life. Yeah, for sure.
And the art definitely.
Yeah. There was always, this is why I think I was so fixated on Islamic geometry, because the whole point of it is to express serenity. And that's what I was actively looking for.
Exactly.
And so that the making of my artwork becomes a meditation for me. So when I'm painting, it's connecting with myself, and and the mindfulness coloring movement is true. It's not out of nowhere. It is it's such tangible. A beautiful way to release your thoughts and your emotions and like really connect with what you're doing. But I love the name of that study.
Yes.
The book, actually, Your Brain on Art, has so many different studies of how art affects us and how we need a nice visual sphere around us. For example,
the house, massaging your brain.
Yes, and to the point where the home that you live in is not. It should not be an afterthought. Because it needs to be. Yes, it's your space, and you need to treat it very importantly.
Yeah,
it needs to have. It has to reflect you. It needs to speak to who you are, and that's how you ground yourself as well.
Absolutely, because you don't want to live in a foreign space, because you'll feel foreign to yourself.
And it will affect your everyday.
It does.
Some people find that it's frivolous to invest in your space, especially if you're an expat and you're renting. But no, it's actually, you can do things that they don't need to take a lot of effort from you. You can do certain things that
makes it feel like home. When I left my home and I moved over to Doha, we were renting and you couldn't do much in the space, but you're so right. So I love collecting art pieces that are of singers. So if you come into my house, there's a portrait of Amy Winehouse or there's a portrait of Tupac. I know that sounds really ridiculous, but we have portraits of singers around the house, and I like them to be very pop artish. But I also love, like, your art speaks to me. It's clean lines as well. And I'm going to come back to this, but my home, I've started to curate so that I've got things in there that's, when you come in, you're like, oh, that's Lexi. Oh, that's Lexi. That's Matt and Lexi. Oh, that's so the two of you. That's so the two of you. You're like, amazing. We were talking about studies and how it emphasizes, or how creativity is a therapeutic tool and it can be a technique that you use. What activities or techniques help you tap into a state of flow, and how does that affect your overall well-being and then the creative process?
So every day is different for me. It's not, I don't have a routine,
Set routine
every day. I have times that I'm in my studio, but it depends on what I'm doing for the day. So my process varies from day to day. But if it's, how do I come up with an idea, for example, it's usually when I'm doing something else, driving
or washing up.
Yeah, there's always those very automatic movements.
Yes.
Even sometimes
taking a shower. Idea.
Usually it's driving, honestly.
Oh,
there's always like that. You're on autopilot. You know where you're going.
Yes.
And then
your ideas start coming in.
Yeah, they start flowing in. But it's also talking to people, bouncing ideas off of people. A lot of my work is commission based, which means that it's made specifically for specific people. And those ideas usually come from the conversation I have with the person. So it's feeling the space, feeling the person. I'm very
intuitive.
Yeah, and I like to bounce my energy with other people's, and I like to learn.
You collaborate that way.
Yeah, exactly. Collaboration is
huge.
It's a big part of.
When I first met you, I felt that immediately. That I felt like, when I'm very, I don't like to throw this word around, but empathic. So everyone's, oh, you're an empath. I'm like, yeah, everybody throws that word around a lot, but usually you can feel it with someone, you know, and I could tell immediately you were creative without knowing you were an artist. I didn't know you were an artist, but I was like, she's creative. There was something about the aura, like there's something creative there. And I had no idea. This was years ago. We've known each other for a while now. Yeah. And I'm like, I don't know what it was. And then when I discovered you're an artist, I'm like, click, that makes sense. That makes total sense. And your aura speaks creativity.
As a recovering perfectionist.
As a recovering perfectionist. Very flowy. Have you ever, I've said this 1,000 times, have you read the book, The Power of Now? I may have asked you this.
I've tried.
It's a big book.
But I've downloaded the audiobook, and his voice is so soothing. It just sends me to sleep every single time. So I've never gotten past maybe chapter 1.
He does. He has such a soothing voice. But if you do get through that book, the way that you just described your process is similar to how he describes what we consider freedom. Think about what freedom is. We as a society think freedom is when I'm financially free, or freedom is when I don't have any problems. But he says, no. Freedom is in the very moment that you're in. This very moment as we sit here right now, is there a problem? No. So we are free. And he's revel in the freedom that's in the moment. And the way you described your process felt like that for me now. Like when you're in your process, you are free.
That's so true. That's how I feel, actually.
Yeah, it feels very free. We were talking about it before. You have a way of you draw and then you cut out. Can you tell the listeners that creative side?
I'll tell you, when I first started researching Islamic geometry, I'm like, okay, let me try this. How hard could it be? So I grabbed a paper and I grabbed a pencil and a ruler, and I started, and I realized that it's an entire discipline.
Yes.
You can go to university. It's a 5-year degree to learn how to
Islamic art.
Yes, Islamic geometry.
That's amazing.
It's not something that you can just pick up a paper and pencil and start doing. But for me, I was too impatient at the time. So I'm like, let me see if I can do something that feels like it, but it's not.
But it's not.
So I did. And I started making my own drawings. And I'm like, let me figure out my own way of doing it. I don't want to
mimic.
Not just mimic. I don't want to push myself back into a box of, I have to meet certain criteria and certain expectations.
Yes.
I want to make my own rules, and then I can decide if I want to push boundaries, and then I can decide if I want to stay within them. I can decide based on how I'm feeling and what I'm doing. This is my toolbox for figuring out my entire life, and my personality and my process and everything. But it's all going to be based on my rules.
Yeah.
So that's when I decided I'm gonna start making my own drawings. And they are inspired by Islamic geometry, but they are not Islamic geometry. So I start by making these drawings, and I used to make them by hand. So graph paper, tracing paper on top, another sheet of tracing paper, and I would just walk around with all these papers under my arm, and I would just it would take me weeks to finish a drawing.
Yeah.
Because it was all done by hand, and it's all super intricate. And then I would have these beautiful drawings, and I would photocopy them to have
multiple.
A record. I never thought of scanning and manipulating digitally. I don't know why. But even
there's something authentic about not doing that.
Because you actually feel it, right? You feel the process.
I feel like scanning would take away from it.
And then, when you're on the screen, it's so much easier to get things done, which means there's less
connection.
Yeah, and less time between each step to think, am I doing this the right way? Does this feel right?
Oh, that's so deep. Yeah.
I'd have these beautiful drawings, but I didn't know what I was doing with them. I just had these so many different,
and that's the epitome of trust the process.
Yeah. Just let's see where this goes. I wish I had this kind of calm back then, but it was coming from a different
place. Learn it.
It's definitely not this peaceful. Oh, let's just see how it goes. But that's what I would have liked for myself to think at that time. Let's just take a deep breath. Yeah, let's see how this goes. So I started then taking these drawings and then shading in parts of them, because then I would find little tiny pieces of them that have different shapes inside that I found interesting. So I would start shading them, and I would color them in. First, I started with just graphite. So I would just color in certain parts of it. And then I started cutting them out. And I would start collaging different pieces on. I also loved photography, so I would go on photography walks, and I would come back with my black and white photography, and then I would paste these little pieces on different places. And then once I decided, let me see if I can blow this up and make it bigger, art kind of installation or art piece. So I did. I made it out of foam board. And it stayed with me. It was a small little exhibition that we had during university, and I took it down, and eventually it's foam board, so it didn't really last. So I just kept throwing away parts of it as I moved studios and moved houses and moved. And then I think the last time I threw a piece out, it was just a few months before I got a request for a commission. This is 10 years later.
Wow.
I get a request for a commission from a lovely family. And they were like, we have this giant staircase and it's double volume, and we'd like to have your artwork displayed in this. And it's very central to the house, so we'd like it to be the cornerstone of the house.
No pressure.
Huge honor. No pressure. And so they were saying it's 7 meters high and 4 meters wide, and we'd like your art there. And I thought, okay, but, and they go, no, there's no but. We give you full control. I said, no, but there's always something. There's always a challenge that I'm gonna have to overcome. I'd rather know about it now,
so that I can factor it in
later. So they said, we'd like to, if we move houses, we'd like to be able to
take it with us.
You take it with us and maybe put it on a different sized wall. And then finally, I got that click of, I can use those pieces that I've been cutting up and pasting and collaging into this staircase and make it not just one big piece of art, actually make it a flow of these
pieces,
very different pieces coming from different drawings. And then they all come together in this super random looking installation.
You've just described life.
Yeah.
They've literally just, I stopped, while you were talking, I stopped in the middle there and I was like, Noor has just described life. He said, pulling from different pictures. We pull from different memories. We pull from different stories in our lives. We pull from different experiences in our lives. And we are human beings, an art piece. And
in the way that we have our own reality.
And like the family, has the family moved? Do you know if they've moved?
Not yet.
Not yet. But when you move in life, like you and I have both lived in different countries, we've experienced different cultures, and that has an impact on you as a person. So that's a little piece of you that you're putting together in all your little pieces. And if I could just go back, you have a collection, I think it's called Resilience or Resilient.
Resilient Fragments.
Yes. That was recent, right? Last year?
This was, yes, started last year.
We're talking about life and different fragments of life. Can you explain the meaning behind that and the creative process on that?
So this is the same kind of concept as the first wall sculpture, but for these, I'm working on using the same exact shapes in different kind of clusters. And so I've got, I think, 4 or more clusters, and then I put them together in different ways. And they can be scaled up, scaled down. And these are talking about the Palestinian diaspora and the way that we come from the same cultural cloth, but then we've all been cut out and scattered all around the world. But actually, we are able to come back together in any society that you put us, in any environment, and still come back together and hold on to our culture.
And hold on to each other.
And we can find each other in different ways. And it doesn't have to look exactly the same wherever we are.
Same pieces in different ways.
Yes. Yeah. And that has its own voice. The diaspora has
its own.
The freedom to actually come together in different ways, but have their own identity.
Oh, wow.
We don't have to fit into
boxes.
Yeah. We don't have to think that we have to refit into boxes. Yeah. And that's also life.
It's not that
serious.
It's not that serious, but I love how you describe humanity, connection, community, health, life, all through your art. It's important for people to understand that's how we can get through difficult parts. That's how we can celebrate great parts. That's how we can evolve individually. And that's how we can come together as community.
That's very true.
Yeah. You describe it beautifully.
I want to tell you about a very special experience that I had a couple of years ago where I was running a workshop. And I want to tell you about this because a lot of people at first glance think my work is quite simple because it's very pretty. And I accept that. The art world doesn't find that pretty belongs in the art world. But I think my work is beautiful. I don't think it's just pretty. I think there's a lot of push and pull with the colors. It's not all about being aesthetically pleasing. Sometimes there are colors that make us quite uncomfortable. And I try to actually use them to find ways that they can sit beautifully within an environment. And they can be unique in their vibrancy.
Yes.
So I ran a workshop a couple of years ago in the TED in Arabic conference that happened in Qatar Foundation a few years ago. And it was the first time that they had a TED summit in Arabic.
That's amazing. I wish.
It was incredible.
Wish I was there.
It was really beautiful. The energy was electric, amazing. So they asked me to come in and do a workshop. And I thought, great, I'll do something that everyone can participate in, no matter skin level.
So interactive.
So one of the things that I love doing when I want to have a little fun and see what happens and just play with ideas and play with putting colors together is I paint papers in different colors. For example, I'm working on a big painting with lots of different colors and I mix a little bit too much color.
Okay.
I use what I need. Maybe on purpose, maybe sometimes my hand spills a little more paint and I mix a little extra color. So whatever color I have left over, I paint onto paper. And then I've just been collecting these colored papers.
Wow.
And then whenever I just want to go in and make something quick because sometimes my work takes a lot of planning and it's a lot of
moving parts.
Yes. So sometimes I just want something quick and I just go in and I start cutting paper up and I make a little collage. And I love that. So I decided I'm going to paint lots of colored papers, take them into this summit, have a table in the middle, a communal table where everyone can come and sit down and we're going to make some collages.
Oh, so they just pick.
And they would just pick papers of papers. There's scissors, paper,
cut, collage,
glue, tape. That's it. And then you get a frame.
Okay.
So that everything looks
like symmetrical.
Done. So you have
that part of the perfectionism is still there.
Because it's really scary to give someone an open-ended. So at least it has that border.
It has an end goal.
And people would come by and some people were intrigued. Some people that are natural kind of creatives they saw the color and they just came running and I want to do this. But then I had these people who were suspicious. They didn't think they would come to me and be like, but I'm not an artist. You don't have to
You
be.
don't have to be.
But I'm not a creative. They would make excuses before sitting down, or they'd come and be like, I'm just going to sit down for 5 minutes.
Okay.
And they would be there for hours. They would think, but they would tell me, they're like, but it's so simple. It's just colored paper. What do you mean I can do whatever I want? And that was a challenge on its own.
Because we're
that
not
I'm
used to
able,
it.
I'm allowed to do whatever I want.
want.
What
Yeah.
do you mean I'm allowed to do
Do
whatever
whatever.
I want?
Because we get told from a young age, and this goes back to identity self-discovery, is that you fit in a box. You can only do what is within that box, and you stay there. So when we get confronted with open-endedness, like you can do whatever you like, we're like, we freeze. We're like a deer in the headlights. We're like, oh no, I don't know.
I do that.
Yeah.
It happens to me.
And then you obviously go and you just start to, it's a practice. It's like flexing a muscle.
Exactly.
It's
Trusting
literally
yourself.
like, trusting yourself. Whenever I talk to guests, and this is going to be one of those interviews, I learn so much, not only about the guest, but about myself. And I'm hoping that this interview as well will allow people to start to think that way, that we are allowed to explore ourselves. And it's a fear. Oh, I'm not an artist. I'm not a creative. I'm not a this. I'm not a that. Like we all just say, I'm not a. But you're shutting a part of yourself down. What's going to happen if you explore that part of yourself? Maybe you explore it and you don't enjoy it. Okay, but at least you explored it. Or maybe you explore it and it becomes a whole nother life. And you have discovered a whole version of yourself that was trapped. And that's why creativity is key as well. I love that you shared that with us. It was really good.
It's one of my favorite projects, honestly.
And I was actually going to talk about that because that's engaging with the community. That's how art can engage with the community. Because we're talking about people that are a little bit afraid of art or a little bit afraid of creativity. What advice would you give to individuals looking to explore their creativity or pursue art as a passion?
I would say don't overthink.
And boy, are we overthinking.
What's that saying? Start where you are,
Yeah.
use what you have, and do what you can.
Wow.
And
that's what I did with this podcast.
That's applicable to everything, because we spend so much time thinking what if and can I, and doubting ourselves. And I struggle with this myself daily. Yeah. But this is something that you just have to keep reminding yourself.
And practice.
Yeah. But creativity is not something that you need to figure out the right way to do. There is no right way. Actually, most ingenuity comes from not doing things the right way. So you never know what you're going to learn. So you just start with the way that you think things need to go.
Yeah.
And then you might actually discover that you've invented a new way of doing things. You don't have to do things the way that they've been done.
Everybody else has done it.
Specifically, the art world actually has been changing so much recently because there's a shift in how art is being seen, how it's being bought, how it's being traded, how it's being perceived. It's unfortunate that it's become such a kind of structured thing. And now like you go to the big art fairs and it's all about what has more value in terms of its monetary value and like how it's being traded rather than, okay, if you buy this artwork, you put it in your home, does it reflect who you are? Is this something that if you put it in your home, is it something that's going to give you good energy? Or is it just something that you want people to see?
Stick on the wall.
You could also do that. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with that, but you have to really think about why you're buying art. Yeah. And there are so many levels to the art market. What I'm saying is there's no right way to fit into it. Do you know what I mean?
And just start where you are.
Start where you are and try to express what is inside of you. And it's not about meeting anyone's expectations.
I think that's what people fear is getting to know who they are.
Yeah, that's terrifying.
We are so afraid to look at ourselves and explore those parts.
I
wonder why. It boggles my mind because it shouldn't, because I was afraid to start this podcast. I was afraid to talk to people. I was naturally, I wouldn't say I'm an extrovert. I'm an ambivert or whatever they call it. So I can be extroverted, but I cherish my alone time. And there's a lot of fear based around exploring ourselves. The more that I talk to other people, like you were just saying, I struggle with that day to day. The creative process, rediscovering a new way of working things. It's really interesting how, and then it goes back to our well-being, because if we don't explore that, if we don't come back to ourselves, we risk getting autoimmune diseases or any sort of disease, or we're constantly at the doctors and we're not expressing the emotions, so it gets stuck.
Yeah, because we don't want to feel them.
We don't want to feel
Our minds don't want us to feel them.
Yeah.
So our minds find
shut
ways
it off.
to distract us, because
Yeah.
your brain wants to protect you from feeling
Yeah.
bad things.
And then you don't live wholeheartedly.
Yeah.
You don't live fully. I feel like to live fully, you have to embrace pain as well as happiness, as well as love and connection and disappointment. And life is not linear. It's not just from point A to point B. It's a million different zigzags to get there. Life is fragmented.
But we're too busy to the zigzag route. We're way
We
too
want the
busy.
quick
We want to
route.
do everything at the
Super quick.
I keep saying it. We don't have to do everything at the same time.
I'm practicing this.
People think, oh, how could you be a working and a mom and this and,
And
that,
that.
but if you don't have to do it all at the same time.
Yeah.
You can. Life is long.
Evolve.
You can take it in stages.
Yes, and evolve over time.
Yeah, and you can change your job.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, I have spoken about this a million
have?
times.
Yeah.
Yes. And when people hear the background, they're like, well, both of us have been in corporate, I would say. We've done the 9 to 5s, and now we're in a flowing state. I find it a flowing state. And I'm not saying everybody should be there. Not everyone's the same. They want to be in a 9 to 5 or a real job, as we call it. Like now, when someone says to me,
It looks very
Yeah.
attractive to me too.
Yeah, so
I want to know what my day is going to
look like, yeah, I want to have
I'd like to
some-
clock in and clock out and know what I'm doing from 9 to. I
Yeah.
love that.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't make me happy.
Exactly. It wouldn't be who you are. You wouldn't be true to yourself. What are your future aspirations as an artist? And are there any upcoming projects you're excited about that we can see as well?
I'd like to dive deeper into identity and exploring identity through my art and what connects us as humanity, our shared experiences, shared traumas, shared opportunities for healing. And I'd like to do that through a few different methods. One of them is I'd like to make more immersive art. So more kind of installations that have aspects of sound and visual aspects and more of a storytelling kind of environment.
Yeah.
Because I love stories and I
Yeah.
love hearing people's stories.
Me too.
And I love being in environments that make people want to talk. And I
Yeah.
love creating dialogue and listening to conversations.
Having safe spaces.
And you learn so much by thinking about things that other people think are normal, but it's
Yeah.
the first time you hear them. It's so important to share ideas. So I'd love to make art that can make that happen.
I think that would be so down your alley, and I would love to be part of it. I want to see what's going on, because the more that we speak, like you say, and you have creative spaces where you can feel safe enough to allow people to talk, I feel more connected to other humans. For the longest time, I felt very disconnected to everyone around me. I was going through some serious health issues, and it felt isolating.
Well, if you think that you're the only one who's gone through that,
Yeah,
then you will feel
and you will
isolated.
be, and you will. Whereas if you try and switch it and you go out into the world and you speak to other humans and you say, listen, I've gone through this, tell me, or you just share, and then they say, you know what happened to me? And they say, you're like, wow, okay.
And it doesn't
I'm
have to
not
be the
alone.
same exact thing.
Yes. And it's not. But yet there's this camaraderie of, wow, we are living, but you're not alone. That you really aren't. You aren't isolated. But if you say you're isolated, you probably are. And you've just got to try and change that narrative and get into the crux of being a human, which means we call it Ubuntu in South Africa. And it's a word that the tribes use. And Ubuntu means the human in me sees the human in you.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
beautiful.
I've learned to start to talk to other human beings. The podcast has been a therapeutic outlet for me.
Being vulnerable.
Being vulnerable. And being vulnerable is so strong. For me, anyone that's vulnerable, you are the strongest person in the room to me. And getting into the vulnerability is tough. People think, like, why would you want to go there? It's so hard. It's very hard to do. But when you're there, you feel an immense amount of emotion. That, for me, feels wholehearted living.
It's getting past the fear
Yes.
in our brains. Fear of being judged, fear of doing
Not
the wrong
fitting.
thing, saying the wrong thing.
Imposter syndrome.
Yeah.
All those things.
Once
Have
you get past
experienced-
that fear.
Yeah. Have you experienced imposter syndrome?
I used to have a very deep fear of public speaking.
Wow. And you're doing it
Even
now.
speaking about my work.
Oh, yeah. Because you often feel, wow, what am I doing here? Who am I to speak on this? Who am I to
Yeah.
say anything? I feel you. I have that often.
But also learning the right language. So learning why you're doing what you're doing, breaking it down helps you
understand
out.
it. Often people used to say to me, oh, so there's millions of podcasts. What's going to make you different? I'm like, I don't want to be like the other podcast. I also want to live here. I'm like, there's a million other architects. There's a million of engineers. There's a million doctors. What's the difference with podcasting?
It's so true. And it's your way of researching and figuring out the
and
world.
expressing it. And exactly. And what is my message to the world? And often people say, what is your message to the world, Lex? And I'm like, my whole mission is that we want to live wholeheartedly, that every part of your life is part of your health. Health is not just the absence of disease. Health is, how do I create? How do I have a relation with other people? How do I speak to myself? Half the time, everything we say to ourselves, we would never say to a stranger. Like we beat ourselves up so badly. And often I hear from clients how they beat themselves up. And I'm like, would you say that to me? They're like, no, I never. I'm like, so why would you say that to yourself? But my message is that your life is an evolution. And like you said, it's long. So allow it to flow. Let things come in, let things go. Let it be like water. It's a river. It comes in and it goes out. But it's difficult to explain this to people because we are so rigid and in boxes. So I'm just trying to show people to break out of the box and live in a circle maybe. Don't live in a square. Maybe you want to live in a triangle. I don't know. How do you envision continuing to blend creativity, play, and social wellness in your work? I think you've already touched on that by making it immersive. But did you not do furniture at one point?
Yeah, I think that's my play. Home accessories. I love home. I love
decorating.
Yes,
and,
I love being in a
it.
space that's me. I'm just obsessed with it. I wanted to be an interior designer once upon a time.
I did it for a little bit. I worked with a company in the UK and they were based in Chelsea. So you can imagine that area, like beautiful. And the projects we used to work on were just, interior design is amazing. So I totally feel
Spaces are amazing.
Spaces are amazing. I'm addicted to watching interior design shows.
Yes, me too. Because it's something that's so in our everyday and it's overlooked. I feel
like I have changed my style. If you saw my first apartment, leather couch. I was young. Me and my husband, we were still dating. Black leather couch. We had these weird.
They were so in.
They were so in
style.
At the time, like a black leather couch. And then we had these pops of color, which were these two square pillows. And it had, I think it was Marilyn Monroe. And she was all made in black and white, but her lips were red. And I'm like, what was I thinking? Why do I have that? And then we had like high volume ceilings. So we had black curtains. Imagine. I know.
It's a look. It's a vibe.
I was like, oh, what was I thinking? And now I'm like, why? In the bedroom at the time, it made sense. But now I'm like, why did I have black curtains? What was I thinking? But you evolve over time.
But yeah, and then you start to see how those spaces make you feel. And then how like, other spaces make you feel.
I cannot. Like in the room when you're sleeping, I was fine with it, but I cannot have it in the lounge. In my living spaces, in my creating spaces, I cannot. I need light. I need a lot of light all the time.
And then home accessories. Yeah. I love having things that like, I like a specific kind of vase, then I'll make it.
And have you, so you've dabbled, you've married, I would say, or meshed together your art and furniture into.
Yeah, I think Islamic geometry lends itself quite easily into that design.
I like it.
So it's quite a natural progression, I would say, into different elements of design. So I've done like occasional furniture, I've done skew homework, coffee cups, we've done vase, cheese boards. I'm working on a whole ceramics line. So hopefully.
You've got to show me. As we come to the end, at the end of each episode, I like to ask my guests something I call the invisible impact or legacy question, because I believe we each have an impact on the lives we touch, often in ways we can't see directly. So as we wrap up, I'd love to know what's one unseen or invisible impact you hope to leave behind, not just from our conversation today, but in your life's work.
I think about legacy not as something fixed, more as a ripple effect. So I think if my work can make someone pause, reflect, or feel seen, then that for me is, I've done my work.
That is so big. Belonging.
Yes.
That's the word that just comes to mind. And that's one of my things as well, is to make people feel seen, heard. And because for the longest time in my life, I didn't feel seen, didn't feel heard, didn't feel like I belonged didn't feel like I fit in. So my life's purpose is to do exactly that. Make you feel seen, make you feel like you belong. And your art, for me, does that.
Yours too.
Thank you so much for joining me, Noor Abu Issa. You are a renowned artist here in Doha, and I'm really privileged to have sat with you today.
Thank you so much.
That's it for today's episode of the Anatomy of Life podcast. If you enjoyed this conversation, be sure to subscribe and leave us a review. It helps others find the show. You can listen to the Anatomy of Life on either Apple Podcasts or Spotify. This show was produced by me, Lexi, with music from Artlist.io. Thank you for listening, and as always, here is to your health.